because all those instructions should be together in the memory. So if you keep delta too small, then it will not cover a complete locality. If you keep delta too large, then actually you are actually having multiple locality in the program, and only one of the locality will be used at a time. So you are actually wasting the space. And if delta is equal to infinity, naturally you're bringing the complete program into the memory, but that means that you may not have memory for other processes or programs. So if all the processes are in the memory, let's say there are n processes in the memory, then if you take the summation of the working set window, working set space of each and every process, then that's denoted by D. If this D is greater than the physical memory size, the thrashing will occur, because working set of some of the processes are not in the memory, so they require those pages and it will start faulting. So for example, in this particular case, if we say the working set window is up to this point, okay, then the pages which are being referenced is 2, 1, 6, 5, and 7. But if we are taking over this window, then it is only 3 and 4. Okay, so the working set will keep on changing. So naturally, that may be good for theoretical perspective, but a more practical scenario could be, okay, so how would operating system know whether the working set is in the memory or not? So it can keep so at certain time, so basically it will try to keep track of the pages that are being referenced at certain interval. So it will reserve some number of bits, and let's say we are trying to look at 10,000 instructions. So after every some time units, a timer will interrupt, and it will try to see which pages have been referenced, looking at the reference bits of the pages, and accordingly try to guess the working set. The problem is that the accuracy of this model will increase if you increase the frequency of the timer and keep more bits for each page. Okay, so but the problem would be that because let's say timer is interrupted after every 5,000 unit, then it is quite possibly that some of the pages have been, and for every page, let's say we are keeping 2 bits. So naturally, after the 4 pages have been referenced, so let's say all the bits are 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. When the first page is referenced, it will increase a bit to 0, 1. It will increase its bit to 0, 1. But now when the page is referenced 4 number of times, its timer, its count has gone to 1, 1. And now if it's referenced 5th number of time, the count will become 0, 0. So now if you take a stock of the situation, you do not know whether this page has been used or not. So that can become a problem. So operating system, if it keeps only 1 bit, then after every third use, the page will be set to, at every third use, the page, it is as good as if the page was not used. So by increasing the number of bits, we can get a better stock of the situation. But the problem would be then operating system will spend more time in guessing the working set of the process. Another thing is that operating system keeps track of page fault frequency. So it can keep the page fault frequency of each process and overall system, and try to guess whether the working set of the working set of the process is in the memory or not. If the working set of the process is not in the memory, so naturally the page fault rate will increase. If the working set of the process is in the memory, page fault rate would reduce. So operating system can try to guess that if page fault frequency of all the processes go above certain threshold, it means the system is moving towards thrashing. So it is it is better to go for priority page replacement or kill some processes and or suspend some processes so that the system can come out of the thrashing. So that is the idea. Now I will also add What did I say? Biladi anomaly. I said something that you need to read. So in assignment, I will also add these two core topics. This is the assignment for you. Okay. And now, let me see who are in the participant list today. Pranshu Vyas.
Yes, ma'am.
Pranshu.
Yes, ma'am.
Pranshu Vyas.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't know whether you are cheating me or whether you are cheating yourself.
Hello, ma'am.
Pratik Maheshwari. Yeah, Pranshu, can you put up your slides and present? You're speaking on mic, but you are not audible. So maybe, Pratik, can you make presentation on dining philosopher's problem that I gave you?
Ma'am, I have joined the meeting by phone.
Pratik, can
Ma'am,
other people hear them? Pratik,
Yes, ma'am.
Pranshu, can other people hear Pranshu? Pratik, can you hear Pranshu?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm not able to hear him. Okay, Pranshu, can you make presentation? If other people can hear you, it's okay. But somehow I'm not able to hear you. But I'm able to hear Pratik. Pranshu, can you make presentation? Has he made presentation? Okay, let me stop my presentation. Stop presenting. Pranshu, can you put up your slides?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, please do. Now you are audible. What happened? I don't know.
Ma'am, I joined from mobile, so can I present from mobile?
Yeah, you can make presentation whatever you feel comfortable with. It's okay.
Okay.
Have you started presenting? Pranshu?
Yes, ma'am. I'm presenting, ma'am. One second.
Okay, okay, it's not yet visible. No?
Ma'am, is my screen visible?
Let me see. Yes, it is visible.
Yes, ma'am. So, ma'am, it is this Chandy-Mishra solution. Ma'am, first is description of what is dining philosopher's problem. And then it is problem statement that there are Cape philosophers seated around a round table with one chopstick between each of the pair. Then, ma'am, the philosophers eat and think alternatively. A hungry philosopher eats only if he picks up both chopsticks adjacent to him.
Mm-hmm.
Then, ma'am, one chopstick may be picked up by only one of its adjacent followers, but not both. And ma'am, a philosopher must pick up first one chopstick, then another, and not both at once.
Okay.
So, ma'am, it is an algorithm form like allocating limited number of resources, which is chopstick, among several processes which are philosophers. And it should be free from deadlock and starvation.
Mm-hmm.
So, ma'am, Chandy Mishra's solution means it was proposed by K. Chandy and J. Mishra in 1984. And it was a generalized solution, ma'am. Means it does not require the philosopher to be in circle or to share only two resources with only nearest neighbors. Ma'am, it was actually the solution to the drinking philosopher's problem, ma'am, which was a more general case of this.
Okay.
And then it was completely distributed algorithm. That is, means ma'am, we didn't need any central authority in this. Only initialization we needed a central authority. After that means the philosophers could communicate in between means with each other and solve the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Ma'am, but it violated only one requirement, that philosophers don't speak to each other. Means in this what they means, ma'am, what it is like, a philosopher is having chopstick and if its neighbor want it. So since there is no central authority, the philosopher will request from its means corresponding neighbor. So they needed to talk to each other. And this algorithm, it was described in terms of clean and dirty chopsticks. So it is also sometimes called hygienic solution of this dining philosopher, ma'am. And ma'am, in this, what was condition that means a dirty chopstick should always be cleaned before giving to another philosopher, and a chopstick is always possessed by one of its philosopher. Now, ma'am, in initialization, what we did, every process we given a unique ID number. Then every pair of means philosophers who ask for a chopstick, we create one chopstick and give to the one with the lower ID number. And also all the chopsticks are marked initialization because suppose we give the chopstick P1 and P2 are asking, and we give the chopstick to P1. But now P1 don't want to eat. But ma'am, in this condition is there that a philosopher will pass the chopstick only if it is clean, only if it is dirty. So only if it is dirty, then he will pass. Now suppose, ma'am, in initialization, if we keep all the chopsticks clean and give it to P1. Now P1 doesn't want to eat, so he will not use the chopstick. It to P2 also. So ma'am, it will be stuck there only. So that is why in initialization, we are keeping all the chopsticks as dirty. Then ma'am, there are four stages. Every philosopher thinking. While philosopher is thinking, if he receives a request for a particular chopstick from one of its neighbor, then he will clean the chopstick and give the chopstick to the requesting neighbor. Ma'am, if he is hungry, then he is preparing to eat. What he will do, he will see which chopsticks he need, and if he is having any one of the chopsticks, he will keep it. Otherwise, he will request the corresponding chopstick from its neighbor. Now, ma'am, if a neighbor is requested for a chopstick to process feed that we possess, then if the chopstick is dirty, it means that philosopher is finished eating. So what it will do, it will clean the chopstick and give to the requesting process. And if the chopstick is clean, it means the current philosopher has not completed eating. So what it will do, ma'am, it will keep the chopstick for itself and take that philosopher and put in a list so that after eating, he can give it to that philosopher. And when then eating process is there, in which a philosopher starts eating when as soon as it has all the chopsticks required, and when during eating, all chopsticks will become dirty. And cleanup after eating, philosopher cleans and delivers chopsticks for which there are any pending requests. Means that philosopher who puts another request in the list, he will check if there is any request for any of the chopsticks he is possessing, then he will clean and give to that philosopher. It was the Chandy Mishra solution.
Okay.
And then it
Okay. Now, Prateek Maheshwari,
Yes, ma'am.
you make presentation on deadlock.
Ma'am, I can stop sharing.
Yeah, you can stop sharing. On
Okay.
Banker's algorithm for deadlock avoidance.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, is my screen visible?
Let me see. Not yet. Let me see. Pratik. I don't think it's visible to me, but Pratik. Is it visible to other people? Hello?
Yes, ma'am, it is visible to us.
Why is it not visible to me? Okay, continue, Pratik. I will be listening to it. It's okay.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, as Pranshu explained the dining philosopher problem and the situation and when the deadlock will occur, like we have five philosophers seated around a circular table, and uh, and each chopsticks is between and uh, all pairs of philosophers. And then, ma'am, if ma'am, deadlock will occur if all the philosophers will pick their left fork or left chopstick, and all wait for their right chopstick. So in this case, a deadlock will occur, and we will solve this by other we will solve this by Banker's algorithm. Ma'am, ma'am, in the Banker's algorithm, it is a deadlock avoidance algorithm. In this we in this we allocate the resource by in the Banker's algorithm. We use the maximum possible amount of all resources, like we can solve the problem of deadlock by swapping one of the fork, like if like between like for philosopher p0 we have to use fork f0 and f1, and for p1 similarly f1 and f2, and for p2 f2 and f3. So we can prevent the deadlock situation by swapping one of the fork, uh, like for p0, if it is using f0 and f1 fork, we can swap the forks position in the circular table, like f1 and f0, and and considering all so in this case, if all in this case now, if all the philosophers will try to if they try to uh, pick up their left fork, then in this case deadlock will not occur in any case, as it will occurring in the previous case, when all the when the numbering would be like for p0 philosopher, left fork would be f0 and right fork would be f1. In this case now, after swapping, deadlock will not occur in any case.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Keshav,
Ma'am, whereas can I stop presenting?
yeah, you can stop presenting. present. Acha, yeah, Keshav is presenting correct. I'm not able to see your screen. Carry on. In any case, carry on.
Ma'am, we know that the dining philosopher's problem, what was the outline of the problem? So I will directly carry to the solution of the problem. The solution is based upon the precedence graph, and here the direction of edge between two neighbors, U and V, is from U to V in three conditions. When U holds the fork shared by U and V and it is already clean, and if V holds the fork and it is dirty, or if the fork is under transition from U to V. Okay, the direction of the edge only changes when a philosopher starts eating as U starts eating. And Chandy Mishra proposed that the graph has to be acyclic to prevent the deadlock prevention. And then he gave three variables. And one was the request token for each fork that was available with all the philosophers. And he gave the following Boolean variables, that is the fork U, request, fork, and dirty, and thinking, hungry, or eating. Fork represent that fork is held by a philosopher. Request was a request token for fork F, uh, the one which held the token. Dirty U represented that fork is dirty and is present in with the U, and thinking, hungry, or eating was the whether functioning of the philosopher. Then he proposed four rules that upon what condition what changes will be made in the variables. So if a fork was requested, then the philosopher had to be hungry, and it would request fork F. So what changes would be made was that a request will be made false after giving the fork. Then second rule was that if someone is eating and a request is made and the fork is dirty, then fork will be given, and dirty will be made to false, that is the fork will be clean now, and fork will be also made to false because it is transferred to the other philosopher. Rule 3 was that request token. If someone has a request token and he makes a request, then he also has to pass the request token. And rule number 4 was that if a fork is received, then a fork variable of that philosopher will be true, and dirty variable will be false. That is not dirty. The initial conditions were that all the forks are dirty. Pranshu also explained why, because only transactions of dirty forks can be made, and fork and request token have to be held by different philosophers. Otherwise, the transaction will not be possible, because uh, if the fork is already with the same philosopher and he also has the token, then there's no need of requesting from another one, and a graph has to be acyclic. So we check the fairness of algorithm, and G is always acyclic. This can be proved that by the fact that the direction of edge only changes when the status of fork is changed, or we can say that when the fork is transferred from U to V. And since we can see that a fork is dirty when the philosopher holding it waits. And we can also see that the direction of edges will always point to itself, point to a philosopher when he is eating. So graph will always remain acyclic in any condition. So we can also see that every hungry philosopher eats. This can be proved by the fact that it is a precedence graph and acyclic. So always one of the philosophers will have higher precedence than the other. This by induction, this can be proved that when we go to any depth, it will be the case. Then we see that there is symmetry, because the rules that are made are same for all the philosophers, and there is no change for any different one. And we see that this does not require much resources, and it is an economic algorithm, because at most the number of messages and transactions are limited by a number. Only one message can be sent by a philosopher to its neighbors, or a transaction can be made. This also follows concurrency and boundedness. Excuse me, ma'am. Can you hear me?
Okay, sorry. I think my mic was off. Okay, Keshav,
Yes, ma'am.
thank you for the presentation. What I said was that I posed a question on the classroom. Please answer that for the attendance, and let's call it a day. I posed assignment on lab as well as theory, so please do them, and we'll meet on Friday. So if there are any questions, you can ask me, and otherwise you can ask your questions on WhatsApp. If there are no queries, then I will be calling the session off. Any questions? Okay, thank you.